Coach Tony Wrestling Podium Performance, and what I'm going to be breaking down is the World Athletics Championships, kind of a preview as to what to expect from it. First, let's cover what has transpired in the last little while in terms of athletes pulling out. The big side of it has been on the American side, particularly, quite possibly the biggest star in the sport, Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. She pulled out of the World Championships last week, citing minor knee pain issues, and she's been dealing with a couple lower leg injuries throughout the season, from a sore quad back in May, June, to knee issues basically since the U.S. Championships. The only reason there's really any controversy around this is because another one of her group's training partners, Athing Mu, the world champion and Olympic champion defending in the 800 meter, has basically said, I'm not sure if I'm going to compete or not. That's up to my coach, Bob Kersey, and if we're going to be just training through to prepare for the Paris Olympics next year. This rubs a lot of athletics fans, track and field fans, the wrong way, because one, we want to see the sport grow. And if we don't get the best athletes and the biggest stars in the sport there, you can't grow the sport. The reason why the sport grew so much between 2008 and 2016 was one person, Usain Bolt. He was enigmatic. He made it so that every time he stepped on the track, you couldn't look away. You had to watch to see what was this man going to do. It was must-see TV. He could command a $500,000 appearance fee. Why? Because he's going to put $2 million in tickets in the stadium and pay for everyone else to get paid in that meet. So that's the biggest reason why there's such blowback against like Bob Kersey's training group, the Kersey Project. Yes, there's always going to be some shady rumors around him, dating all the way back to 1989 when Canadian sprinter and still Canadian record holder in the 100 meter, Angela Bailey, refused to train with Bob Kersey because there was rumors of PED use. Nothing has ever been substantiated. We have to always go with innocent and proven guilty, but when there's rumors, a lot of times where there's smoke, there's fire. I always hope that everyone in the group is clean. He's trained athletes like Allyson Felix, the greatest female sprint athlete in history at this point. She had the range from 100 to 400. She's been world champion, Olympic champion in relays, individual events. She's an incredible athlete all the way going back from I think it was the 2003 World Championships was her first, and she competed all the way through to this past year in Eugene, Oregon. Some other notable athletes who have kind of pulled out with injuries, who were registered for the World Championships. Michael Norman, defending 400 meter champion on the men's side. He's pulled out, citing basically he's just not prepared to. He's been focusing more on the 100, 200 this year than the actual 400, where he's the defending champion. Yet another American pulling out from the meet. Bahrain's, just so that I can actually pronounce her name correctly, Salwa El-Eid Nasser has also pulled out due to injury. Now, she's also just recently back from a doping ban that she got for whereabouts issues that she had, where she was suspended for missing too many tests, kind of like test dodging. It's the same thing that Christian Coleman had. It's the same thing that Nigeria's 100 meter hurdles world champion and world record holder Toby Abusan just got cleared of by the Athletics Integrity Unit's disciplinary panel 2 or 3 days ago. She was cleared to compete this upcoming weekend. Some other notable athletes who are going to be absent due to injury, and they weren't able to qualify at their trials. Andre DeGrasse will not be registered in the men's 100 meter, for example, which for Canada, that's a fairly big blow. But we do still have Jerome Blake and Aaron Brown. Both of these guys are capable of sub 10 seconds. They both trained together down with Star Athletics in Claremont, Florida, and they were members of our Canadian 4x100 meter relay team at the 2021 Olympics, where they got the silver medal, and last year in Eugene, Oregon at the 2022 World Championships, where they're now the defending world champions in the 4x1. Ryan Krauser has just today came out saying he's dealing with 2 blood clots in his legs, and he's still going to compete in the men's shot put. I call the man the human cannon. because he launches the shot put further than anyone else in history. There's times where he could be a meter ahead of second place. Like, he's just not human in that regard. He's a freak among freaks. And I mean that in the best way possible. Like, this is a sport full of freaks, and he's just blowing them away. He's destroying records left, right, and center. Every meet he seems to break a record, whether it's the meet record or area record, facility records. So, like, that's always a real good thing to see. As for other notable athletes that aren't there because they couldn't perform well at their national championships, Abby Steiner. Last year, she was the breakout collegiate athlete, and this year she's got bone spurs in her heels, and she's going in for her surgery if she hasn't already had surgery. Trayvon Bromell, last year's 100-meter world championship bronze medalist. He's also ended his season due to bone spurs. Back in 2016, he had an issue with bone spurs around his Achilles and his heel, and now he's dealing with them again, but from what I've heard, it's in the opposite foot from what it was back in 2016. Now, this doesn't seem like much, but when we keep seeing more and more athletes having injuries, especially, we got to start to take a look introspectively, and I'm going to talk about that in a different video, probably at the end of the World Championships, because I want this to focus more as a preview to it. So now that we've gotten what I kind of call the shitty news days out of the way, let's start to dive in. I'm actually going to break this up into, make it a two-parter, so that we can kind of focus a little bit more on each event. So we're only going to go basically day 1 through 3 with this. The reason for that is because we're going to see a lot of event changes potentially happening after the short sprints and the mixed relays, before we start to lead into the 200 meters, and the last couple of days ends up being primarily relays and finals of other events. So without further ado, let's first dive into day 1, 2, and 3, where we're going to be we get the men's 20-kilometer race walk. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't know all that much about the event, but what I am going to be going with is I'm hoping, since how it's 20 kilometers, it's not the 50-kilometer race walk that we saw at the Olympics back in 2021, but this is an event that's kind of weird, just because like all these guys, they could be all bunched up together, and whoever just ends up getting an extra step ahead could take it. The rule for race walk, 1 foot must always be in contact with the ground. Otherwise, if you do too many basically running steps, you can either be disqualified or they add on a penalty distance to you. Now, as a Canadian, I'm going to be cheering for Evan Dunphy. He's sponsored by Kraft Dinner, of all things, which makes it a little funnier. He's a little bit goofy, which adds a little more personality to it. And the thing I really like about Evan is he calls out a lot of the BS in the sport, whether it's doping or just people being shady. So, like, I always cheer for a guy kind of like that. So we'll stick primarily right now to all the track type events. So now we get into, the mixed 4x400 meter relay. A surprise to me today was seeing American Gabby Thomas, who's the world leader in the 200 meters currently. She's registered and going to be competing for Team USA. I don't know if it's going to be heats and finals, or heats or finals, how it's going to be set up, but she's going to be running one of the legs in the mixed 4x4 relay. Last year at the World Championships, we saw for the Netherlands, what's her name? Femke Bol ran the mixed 4x400 meter relay, as well as the 400 meter hurdles, and then the women's 4x400 meter. So one thing to keep in mind, 400 meter runners at this point in the season are in incredible shape, but they're in very specific shape. So being able to handle multiple rounds in something like this, where, your country might not be all that deep, so someone like Femke Bol and Vazer for the Netherlands, these two ladies might have to run both rounds of this before the open 400 for Vazer and before the 400 meter hurdles for Femke Bol. That's a lot of running to be doing. It's only 400 meters. It's less running across, even if they do 6 races, that's less racing than a single 5,000 meter. It's the intensity that matters. If they're putting in much greater output with each 400 meter lap than a 5,000 meter runner, it's much more demanding on the body. It causes more trauma to the body. It's also much harder to recover from a central nervous system point of view. Now, how I see this basically playing out is we're going to see it go USA, Netherlands, not Trinidad and Tobago, Great Britain will be in it. The Dominican Republic last year was a surprise result. I believe they got silver. They either won it or got silver. So when we think about that, we have to remember this is an event where we might be bringing in two non 4x400 meter sprinters into the event. We might be bringing in people running it as an off event. This might be a way for people to blow out some of the nerves that you get at major championships. So with that in mind, I'm going to say just be based purely on the depth of field that the United States of America has, and they might be a little ticked off that they didn't win gold last year on home territory. They might come out there and win it. And this is the event where we could actually see a new world record just because everyone on the U.S. team is in incredible shape right now, and it's the opening event, so they might just be going out there to basically to prove a point. The Dominican Republic, Great Britain, and I believe it's going to be like the Netherlands and perhaps even Jamaica. Those are the other medal threats in my eyes. Poland might, depending on the setup they go with. If they go with the same type of setup they went with in 2019 where they went male, male, female, female, they could get far enough ahead that it gets hard for teams to pass them. But if that anchor runner just doesn't have the legs to keep up with, most likely every team's going to finish with a male sprinter. And when they see someone ahead of them, they're going to be hungry, they're going to be coming after them. They could end up having what happened to them in 2019 where they go from first to, I believe, they finished in 5th place. Now let's take a look. Now we jump into the 100 meters for men. So the preliminary round, this is where people who don't have the standard, they come in and they try to make at this point, they're just trying to get into the preliminary rounds, the heats. So these people, you don't expect them to even make the semifinals. They're basically there as placeholders to fill lanes. No offense to them, like it's an excellent accomplishment to be going to the World Championships to begin with. They should be proud of themselves. In terms of medal threats, Fred Curley's the defending champion. He's been in pretty damn good shape all year in the 100 meter. Noah Lyles came out the other day saying, oh, he's going to run 9.65. Stop the cap. He's not going to run 9.65. His first 30 meters is just not good enough. He would have to get a flyer. His closing speed is good enough for that type, but he does not have the first 30 meters to be able to have a 9.65 legal time. The U.S. crowned a new national champion. The Americans have so much depth in the 100 meter that they could potentially sweep it again, but at the same time, supposedly, the Olympic 100 meter champion, Marcel Lamont Jacobs, is in shape. He just ran really well at a European meet a couple weeks ago, and he's been talking a whole lot of shit again. So perhaps he's in shape and he's going to do it, and he's clean, and now he's able to go. Yes, I do not believe that he is a clean athlete. I have not believed that since 2021. You don't have a meteoric rise, win the Olympic Games, and then end your season when you're a clean athlete. During the pandemic, there was next to no drug testing going on globally, and all of a sudden when there's a lot more drug testing, a lot of people's performances dropped off the map. In terms of other potential threats, you have this Lestil Tobogo. I'm sorry, he's the Botswanan wonder kid. He set the world junior record last year in the 100 meter. And he doesn't have the world junior 200 meter record. That's Arian Knighton. But this kid is immensely talented. He's running and slowing down and running sub 10 seconds. He also just recently this year ran a 19.5 in the 200 meter. He's in great shape and he is a medal threat. If he holds it together, keeps his wits about him, which he's shown no signs that he's not able to do it. He always seems to show up at big meets and perform. So I expect him to potentially even medal. And then we take a look as well at the new British record holder Zarnell Hughes. He ran 9.8 earlier this year, and he looked damn good doing it. He's also recently broke the British 200-meter record, so he's showing he's in incredible shape. Yes, it's 100 meters. People don't think you have to be in good shape. You got to be in damn good shape to finish the 100-meter dash without falling apart. It might not seem like much running 10 seconds, but it's 10 seconds of basically max velocity, max effort. You still need to be in great shape. Not to mention you're going through 3 rounds. So you got to turn it on, shut it down, recover. Come back the next day, turn it on, qualify for the final, shut it down, recover, and come back. I believe it's only 90 minutes later. Yeah, it's 90 minutes later between the prelims and the final of the 100-meter dash on Sunday. They run at 4:35 local time, and then they run at 7:10 local time. Oh, sorry, they get 2.5 hours this time around. That's still not all that much time to recover the nervous system. So the harder you have to run in your semifinal to qualify for the final, the more it potentially could take out of you. Now, there are people where this could actually be a benefit to them because they could use this as, okay, each round they step it up, they step it up. This is something that, like, Usain Bolt, Andre DeGrasse, Johan Blake, Justin Gatlin are famous for doing when they were running at their best in the 100-meter. Each round got a little faster, I believe it was the 2012 Olympics where Usain Bolt went 9:85, shutting it down in the semifinals. He made it look like he was jogging, but each round he got faster and faster until he dropped the hammer on everybody. That's what the best are able to do, is each round they're able to get a little bit faster and a little bit faster, and they're still not maxing themselves out and exhausting themselves. That's why when you peak for a competition like the World Championships, being able to handle the rounds is intensely important. Now let's take a look on the women's side. The women's side is basically, let's just put it simple, it's a battle between the US and Jamaica. Yes, a couple African athletes could play spoiler, but for the most part we're talking about Sha'Carri Richardson versus Shericka Jackson, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, and we might get a couple Africans in the picture in terms of Mary-Josée Talu and Julian Alfred, the recently crowned NCAA champion who's had an incredible breakout season. She's running in the 10.8s. This could be the fastest 100-meter in history for women. Sure, they're running slower than the men. Who cares? They're the fastest women on the planet. The defending Olympic champion didn't even qualify for the championships. That's how competitive Jamaica is, and she's having another off year like she did last year. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce is coming back from a little bit of a leg injury, but she's shown fairly good fitness the past month where she's run a couple 10.8 races and made it look easy. Sha'Carri Richardson has probably been the most consistent athlete this year. She's run the most 10.7s. She won the U.S. championships. The issue with her is, can she handle the rounds? The U.S. championships, she got slower with each round. And with that 2.5 hour window between the semis and the finals, that could beat someone like her up. She's a smaller frame, so it takes a little bit longer for the smaller frame people when they get up to that maximum velocity to recover from a CNS point of view and musculoskeletally. But if anyone's able to do it, it's her. She seems like she just free flows. Once she gets up to max velocity, the only other person I can think of that kind of looks like her at max velocity, Florence Griffith Joyner. Once they get up to top speed, it's just free flowing. It looks like poetry in motion. But now, is she going to be able to handle doing that with the start of Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, the mommy rocket, the pocket rocket, the fastest woman in the field PR-wise? She's run 10.60. When she gets out, like she did at the World Championships last year, where she set the championship record, where multiple times last year she ran 10.6s, when she gets out of the blocks, there's no one on the women's side who can accelerate like her through 30, 50 meters. If she gets out far enough ahead and causes anyone to tie up, number 6 World Championship. She's going for history with this. Now, her Jamaican compatriot and current world leader, Shericka Jackson, she might not always have the greatest start, but when she gets upright running, she can flat out fly. That's what makes her so amazing in the 200 meter. She used to be a 400 meter runner. She's the Olympic bronze medalist. Last year, she was the World Championship silver medalist. All she needs now is to take that one step further forward and get the World Championship gold medal at this point, to have one of each medal. Her weakness is the start and consistency a little bit this year. But at the Jamaican Championship, she showed, once you put championship beside it, she shows up to play. Because she set a world leading time in the 100 meter, and then she set a world, at the time, leading time in the 200 meter before it was broken literally like an hour later or 2 hours later by Gabby Thomas. So we're looking at some pretty damn fast ladies in this. All right, so now let's take a quick look at the women's 1500 meter. Now, this is an event that, let's be honest, it's going to be dominated by the East African countries and those of East African descent. They've dominated the event since, I don't know, time started. That's just how good they are at the distance events. It's cultural for them. They're expected to win. Like, if you take a look at the top list based on season's best, you got the world record holder Faith Kipyegon, and then you got from Kenya, and then it's an Ethiopian. Oh, then you got a couple white girls, Great Britain's Laura Muir, then Lyndon Hall and Jessica Hull from Australia, and then we get back into the same kind of consistent pattern of mostly Africans dominating it. One person we can't sleep on is Sifan Hassan. She dominated the event basically all the way through to the 2021 Olympics, and she's been one of the most consistent distance runners in history. It's just this year, Faith Kipyegon of Kenya has come out and just been smashing every record in distance races. She has the 1500 meter world record and the 5000 meter world record. So she doesn't just have the endurance, she's got the speed with the endurance, since she's the fastest ever at both of those events. So my prediction, it's going to be an African sweep on the podium with the potential of Sifan Hassan of the Netherlands. She's actually East African descent as well, but she might play spoiler and get a European country on the podium. One issue you always run into with distance events at the World Championship and the Olympics is it becomes less about running fast and more about a strategic race. So we usually see slower times at this compared to a Diamond League race with a one-off race. So I don't really expect fireworks. What I do expect, though, is for it to be a good race. And most likely, I'm going to go ahead and predict Faith Kipyegon. She's going to win it. She's been winning every race this year, and I see no reason why anyone really beats her going forward. So it's going to be Faith Kipyegon's going to win it. On the men's side, that's where it gets a little more interesting. Because historically, just like on the women's side, it's dominated by the East African nations. But in recent years, it's kind of taken a little bit of a switch, with the top three people in the world all being basically non-African. Well, Yared Nuguse, I'm not actually sure what his family history is, what his heritage is, but right now, the world number one is Jacob Ingebrigtsen. This guy is a phenom, plain and simple, but he's not to be outdone by Mohamed Katir of Spain. The top two people in the world in the event right now are both European. And Jacob Ingebrigtsen, I'm pretty sure he's sitting right now at number 5 or 6 all-time in the event. And he's only a second and a bit away from the world record. If he runs the final like he runs at the Diamond League, no one's touching him. He is going to destroy the field, and he might set the world record. He's the only one in my eyes in the field capable of setting the World Championship and or world record at these games in the 1500 meter on the men's side. We're going to see strategic racing by a lot of people, however. Who's going to have the balls to go with Ingebrigtsen will be the question. My prediction is going to be him, and then we're probably going to see Timothy Cheruiyot come out of nowhere and grab a medal. He'll probably sit middle of the pack, and the next thing you know, he's in the last lap. He's sitting right there in second and third place by the time everyone crosses the line for the podium. And now we get into... Actually, let's dive into the multi-events. We start out the day with, okay, you get both the... Oh, actually, day one, we don't have the decathlon starting. We have the heptathlon starting on day one, and on... Oh, interesting schedule this time around. So the decathlon... Okay, I'm going to save the decathlon until the second part of this. So let's dive into the women's heptathlon. It was just announced fairly recently that the double Olympic and world champion in the heptathlon, Belgium's Nafi Thiam, pulled out of the event, sadly. She's been dealing with some tendon pain, which when you've got to do 7 events at max effort, with one of them being multiple bouts of effort in the high jump, it's very taxing. And that's a big blow and opens up the field for some others to kind of step up and win the event. So having seen that, now I got to see who's actually left in it. All right, so with Nafi Thiam out, Anna Hall's winning it. The only way Anna Hall does not win is if she gets injured or gets a no distance. Other than that, there isn't a person in the field within 400 points of her season best wise. And she's also a world-class 400-meter hurdler. She has world championship qualifying caliber speed in the 200-meter. She's an excellent long jumper. Like, honestly, if anyone's ever going to break Jackie Joyner-Kersey's heptathlon world record, it's this girl, Anna Hall. And we might see her go over 7,000 points, which is a hell of a feat. Other than that, the field's pretty wide open after that. But honestly, I think it's just going to go how the seedings are for the most part for gold and silver. Katarina Johnson-Thompson's going to be the silver medalist. And then after that, it's wide open. Like, it's basically going to come down to who keeps it together for 7 events in the Eastern European heat over the next couple of days. Whose mind can keep them together, whose body holds up, and who has... It's probably going to come down to a throw event, like shot put or javelin, that's going to determine the third place finisher. Sadly, we don't have any Canadians. Our top Canadian girl is still recovering from an Achilles tendon rupture, but she's been coming back very, very well. And it's good to see her back on her feet. That would be Georgia Ellenwood. Sorry, blanked on her name for a quick second there. Now, let's take a look at the field events that start on day one. All right, we got men's shot put. As I said in the intro, Ryan Krauser's dealing with some blood clots. I believe he's still able to get on the podium even with that. And if anyone is able to still be the world champion again, it's him. He's the human cannon. His arm launches these things, the 16-pound shot into orbit. It's the only way to put it. The guy is a human artillery piece. He launches these things out of the stadium. And after that, it's just going to go based on seeding. Joe Kovacs and Tom Walsh, they're just going to go silver and bronze. But we might see some people kind of surprised. Like Rajendra Campbell of Jamaica, he's been having a very good season. His PRs from this year. A lot of people on this list, their PR is either from this year or they're very close to it. But my prediction, everything's going to stay based upon the seeding for the top 3. After that, it's going to get blown wide open. I do hope that the Canadian boy we got in the field, Mark Buchnowski, breaks the 20-meter mark, because that always shows excellent progress. Being able to show up at a major championship and set a PR is always good to see. So I do hope the Canadian lad does that. And then we also got the men's discus starting up. For that, I'm going to be honest, I don't know too much about discus. I've never really followed it, but I do know Christian Chet is an absolute gamer. The guy always seems to show up when it matters and just launch the frisbee as far as he can go. So, not knowing much about the event, but I know this guy's name and I know he's keeps showing up when it matters. I think he's going to be our world champion. He's from Slovakia. So both the men's shot put prelims and finals are actually today, August 19th. So with that, as long as Ryan Krauser can get into the final quickly and recover, he's going to do really well there. Men's triple jump kicks off. Now, that's an event that's a bit of a pain in the is really difficult. It's a hop, skip, and a jump. It's only 3 real launches, but it is so taxing on the body. Its nickname gets called cripple jump because it beats up the athletes. One athlete who just keeps making teams for the U.S. is Will Clay. Do I expect him to even be in the picture for medals? No. But it's great to see that he's made yet another World Championship team. In terms of who's going to win, the top 3 are close in this one. You got Jaden Hibbert of Jamaica. He's only 18 years old. He's still a junior. What the hell? This kid's only a junior. I know he just finished his freshman season in the NCAA, and he set the NCAA record indoors. I think he set it outdoors as well. So if he keeps on with his progress, he might be the youngest world champion ever in the event. And then you got Huizengo of Brunei and Pedro Pichardo and Lizardo Martinez, all above 1750 in the event. So it's basically going to come down, like this one's going to just come down to who puts it together with a good wind behind them and sticks it. Whoever executes the best is going to be a medalist in this field. Like we've got so many guys above 1630 even. The top, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 athletes are all above 1730. So that means that the difference between them is only about this. So whoever puts it together, whoever uses the full length of the board, whoever pieces and sticks their hop, their skip, and their jump together will be your medalist. We could actually even have someone who's not even in the top 10, because it's that close, be a medalist or the world champion. So that kind of wraps up day 1 in terms of what's going on. Day 2, all right, this is where we get the women's 20 kilometer race walk. Again, I know nothing about race walk. I'm not even going to try to make a prediction there. I'm just going to say whoever's the best in the world right now, she's going to win. I'm not even going to try to make a prediction with that. The women's 400 meter heats. Well, this is where things get a little interesting. With Nazar out, Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone out, it opens the field up. And one of the magical things about track and field, the defending world champion is competing. Shawnee Miller-Weibo, who just gave birth 5 months ago, is competing at the World Championships in the 400 meter dash. That's inspiring. I don't care if she comes dead last, because that is absolutely stunning. She has, in the field of entries, which still includes Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, she is the fastest woman in the world at a 48:36 personal best time that she ran at the 2021 Olympics. She is an incredible athlete. Her husband is a world-class decathlete. So that baby is going to be super powered. But I'm hoping she at least makes it to the semifinals. If she makes it all the way to the finals, all bets are off. She might be an absolute anomaly and win it. She's that damn good. But you got Merlady Paulino of the Dominican Republic. Most likely she's also going to be in the women's, in the mixed 4x400 meter, because the Dominican Republic isn't that deep, and this is one of the greatest 400 meter sprinters in the world on the female side. And then we take a look as well. You got Britton Wilson in there. She's the USA Championship silver medalist. She's one of the fastest NCAA runners in history. She's an excellent athlete. She just signed with, I believe it was Adidas. Her and Talitha Diggs, another American athlete, signed with Adidas either just before I believe it was Diggs was just before, and Wilson was just after the U.S. Championships. So Adidas is very well represented in the event because I believe Paulino's also an Adidas athlete. I could be wrong. I'm okay with being wrong on that. And then the field in this event is at the top. Okay, you got Paulino, Wilson, the Irish girl, Rashidat Adeleke, who was the NCAA champion in the event from University of Texas. Actually, I am actually going to fact check my. Yes, she. So, Irish girl Rashidat Adeleke, who's Nigerian ancestry, but she's Irish. She set the NCAA record. She ran 49.2 seconds to set that record to win the championships. And she's also got flat 100-meter speed. She was on that University of Texas women's 4x100 meter relay as well, which also won gold. So she's got the speed. She's got the speed reserve for the event. She is an extremely talented athlete. The only thing kind of going against her is she is young. Like, her and Talitha Diggs are only a week difference in age, with Talitha Diggs being 7 days older. And with Adeleke showing that she's got this kind of speed, she could be a dark horse for the gold, especially if she keeps improving. I honestly don't think any of the other Europeans are really going to be in the picture for a medal. Like, Kazmarek of Poland, yeah, she performs well, but is she going to be able to put it together? Like a Klaver, yeah, she's fast, but is she going to be able to keep with some of the other athletes? I just don't think so, not when it comes time for the medals. Making the final, yes. Being on the podium, no. I think our podium is basically going to be Paulino, Wilson, and Adeleke, is how I see this kind of going. And Talitha Diggs being the only other person, in my eyes, that's going to get on the podium when you take into account that Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone and Salwa Eid Nasser are both out. And the true dark horse in the event is Shawnee Miller-Weibo, depending on the shape she comes in with. She just gave birth 5 months ago. Cut her some slack. Actually, I'm not even saying cut her some slack. Celebrate the hell out of that woman. She's coming after 5 months giving birth. Like, I'm in shock just thinking about that. And then we also get into the men's 400 meter. As previously stated, the defending world champion Michael Norman pulled out earlier this week, which he this year wasn't even really a threat to be a medalist. This is one where we've got 4 guys at 44.1 or faster. We've got Stephen Gardner, the current world leader, Mozala Simukonga of Zambia, Rushine McDonald of Jamaica, and then the world record holder Wade van Niekerk of South Africa. These are our top 4. And then we start to get filled in with a couple of Americans in terms of Bryce Deadman, Vernon Norwood, Quincy Hall, and Justin Robinson in there. Also, Grenadian athlete Karani James has also been entered. He's not in the shape that he was a few years ago. Like, he's now starting to get old. He's 30 years old this year. He's got a lot of mileage on him, but he's a gamer. He shows up when it matters. But to be honest, Stephen Gardner's winning it of the Bahamas. He's just been the class of the world this whole year. Wade van Niekerk, I think he's going to be the silver medalist. I don't think he's going to take Gardner down this year. He's still kind of getting himself back into shape in terms of coming back from a bad injury he had. So I think Van Niekerk's going to be silver medalist, and then it's going to be, I'm going to put my money on Rushine McDonald of Jamaica to be the bronze medalist. I think the U.S. gets frozen off the podium in this event this year, which is going to be tough for Michael Johnson to see and for Michael Norman to see that happen. But I just don't see it really going any other way this year. All right, so we also jump into having the women's discus. Now, this is an event where it's going to come down to, does Valerie Allman execute? Last year at the World Championships, she came second. That was the first time I've seen her not win. That's why I'm just going to straight up say Valerie Allman's winning it, because I think she's a little pissed off with not winning it last year. And the amazing thing is, this is a former ballerina who just goes out there and she throws a frisbee 70 meters. She's an absolute phenomenal athlete. And I think that actual little ballet background gives her a little bit of an advantage with the spin. Because when she releases the discus, she's able to easily pirouette her way to stay in the circle. So it gives her a little bit of added velocity and comfort with that added velocity without running the risk of stepping out of the circle and getting a fault. Bin Feng, I do believe she won the World Championships last year. Hasn't really been in the same shape as last year, discus-wise, but never counts a champion out. I believe she's going to be in there for the medal hunt regardless. And then after that, we got 10 girls over 65 meters, which means all 10 of them are medal threats. But it's going to be Valerie Allman and then who else? Who's coming with her? The men's hammer also goes down, but I haven't followed hammer throw in basically ever. I only followed a little bit when Jim Stacey of Canada was doing well on the men's side, and I follow more so on the women's side now that Canada's got an excellent contingent of female hammer throwers, including the defending World Championship silver medalist. We'll get into that a little bit later, probably in part 2, because I believe women's discus is later on in the World Championships. But we also start the men's 400-meter hurdles. That is probably going to be the men's race of the championships, because you got the 3 fastest in history going head-to-head. You got Carson Warholm, the world record holder, Olympic champion, the Norwegian Viking. You have Rai Benjamin, the American hope. And then you got 2022 world champion Alison Santos. These are the 3 fastest in history. There's no one else going to be with them, most likely. It's going to be those 3 going for it. And I'm going to go with the world record holder for gold, Rai Benjamin for silver. It's going to be a repeat of the 2021 Olympics, where it goes Warholm, Benjamin, Santos. Now, I believe Santos and Benjamin will be very close to each other, and I believe that we might actually need a photo finish for this race. I don't see a world record happening, maybe a world championship record, but I don't see any of them this year going 45 seconds. That world record run by Warholm in 2021 was out of the world incredible execution and incredible performance. So that's just the way I see it going. I do believe that it actually finishes on so day 5 is when the final is. It just gets going on day 2, so tomorrow. The men's high jump, no one's touching Barsham. Barsham's going to win it. He's been the top high jumper in the world for almost a decade now. I can't remember the last time he was really under real threat, other than at the 2016 Olympics when Derek Drouin beat him. Other than that, the only person that's really been able to beat him has been himself. Or at the 2021 Olympics, he showed the greatest... it was the greatest show of sportsmanship I've ever really seen in an individual event, because he decided to share a gold medal with his best friend, Gianmarco Tamberi, who I believe is also going to be on the podium here, because he shows up and he's a gamer. And then you got Javon Harrison of the U.S. We've got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So the top 13 are separated by 6 centimeters. That doesn't seem like much, but each height increase, you start to see people fall off. I think Barsham's going to win it, and Tamberi's going to be a silver medalist. And then after that, we're going to have a wide open field. It's just going to be, again, who shows up that day. High jump is a fickle technical event. You could be on through the first several jumps, and then all of a sudden, that next height up, you clip it once, and then it just gets in your head, and it really just mind screws you. And then the next event that we get into is the men's 110-meter hurdles. Now, this is always a fun event to watch. There's always chaos. Something always seems to go wrong for somebody. There's someone who false starts, someone crashes into a hurdle and takes out of someone beside them. Some guys break hurdles. The defending world champion, Grant Holloway, is one of the favorites for it. He's not the world leader, but he is still a favorite in the event because he's just that damn good at the hurdles. He gets out through the first 5 hurdles. He's usually like 2 or 3 meters ahead, and then everyone starts to come and get him. The Olympic champion, Hansel Parchment of Jamaica, he's just not in the shape that he was then, but you can't count him out. He's a gamer. He shows up when it matters. How do I see this playing out? I do believe it's going to go Holloway, and then the Jamaican youngster's relative, but the Jamaican youngster, Rashid Broadbell, who has the world-leading time, he set that only a couple weeks ago. I think he's going to be the silver medalist, and then it's going to be wide open. Whoever throws themselves full across the line, it's going to be a blanket finish, and it's probably going to be one of the most entertaining events of the championships just because of the nature of the event where people just throw themselves across the line. Now, the men's 10,000 meter. This is, in my eyes, one of the more boring events of every championship because everyone just ends up kind of jockeying. They don't really go after it. At the end of the day, it's probably going to be an Ethiopian-Kenya sweep. Like, they're the best at it. Yes, a couple Americans are in there in the top 5 based on seeding. I just don't see them being able to do it at the championships with the East Africans. So I'm going with an African sweep through the top 5 spots even. So yeah, that's how I see that event playing out. I don't see anyone really being able to blow that up. And now we have the women's long jump. Now, this event in recent years has become more entertaining, primarily because of one girl, Tara Woodall-Davis, or Davis-Woodall, of the U.S. She brings personality to the event. She has a charm to her. She's got charisma. She has showmanship. She has stuff that no one else brings to the damn event. She makes it entertaining. She also puts on a performance every time. And she's a damn good long jumper. Like, she's the world number 2 right now with a 7:07 season's best. She was, earlier this year, her and her American teammate, Quenisha Burks, had a little bit of social media beef going back and forth between them where they were talking some shit, almost put a bet down for a meet in, I believe it was in the Bahamas or the Barbados. And Tara Davis-Woodall won the meet. And I just think she's probably going to be the gold medalist. She's been performing well. She competes well. And it's good to see someone who's got that personality actually able to carry an event, especially now that some of the top athletes from the past are now stepping away and retiring from the sport. So hopefully she's able to carry the torch with that next batch, that next generation. But the top 3 in the world right now are all 24 years and younger. That's great to see. And not to count out Jasmine Sawyers. Sometimes the British pronounce things different ways and it makes no sense, so I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. But this year she set a 7-meter PR. She could be in the threat for a medal. That's what's great about long jump. It can be separated by 1 centimeter. Think about that. You jump up to 6 times when you're in the final, and it gets separated by 1 centimeter after all that. And if you tie, they might go to your second best jump. So it gets entertaining in that regard. Hopefully it's an excellent competition, and hopefully we see several PRs, national records, and jumps over 7 meters. Because you want to see the best perform at their